Hi, Ande Frazier here with myWorth, and today I have the pleasure of being able to talk to Desiree Rabuse, who is the founder and editor-in-chief of StyleFox, which is a lifestyle and wellness site. And we're going to learn about how to live our best life, and we're going to hear about Desiree's journey and how she came to launch StyleFox, and we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to be perfect. So let's dive right in. Thank you so much for spending some time to share your story and a little bit about how you launched StyleFox with us today. So let's just kind of jump right in. You grew up in California, right? And now you're in New York City. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so I'm originally from California, born and raised. I lived in LA for 10 years before I moved to the city. And I grew up in the Central Valley, actually, which is about 2.5 hours north of LA. And yeah, so I lived in LA, was working there in commercial on-camera work, doing all kinds of stuff like that. And then I just wanted something different. I think I was just feeling like this is not really where I want to be for the rest of my life. I was doing a lot more writing at the time, and I basically rented out my condo. And I got rid of everything, and I packed up a suitcase, and I showed up in New York. I think sometimes you just need to get started. You just have to go. Like, I didn't have an exact plan of what I wanted to do. I had a vision for what I wanted to do, but I wasn't like, okay, I didn't have like the analysis paralysis. I think that's really important to just get going, move forward, and that's what I did. So, yeah.
A lot of women, I think, have this kind of vision that maybe they want to do something really bold and different and launch something, but maybe it's that they have family obligations and they feel like they really can't take that risk. And so I'm just curious, was there something that was like a defining moment for you where you knew, I won't be happy unless I do this?
I can probably speak for myself and some other women as well. As like, my personality is just, I like challenges, and I like to kind of go toward hard things. I get some kind of thrill out of, I think, trying something new and going out and just building something. So I think for me, I didn't really think about, I was of course gonna miss my family. I think that was the hardest part. Was like thinking about not being able to just go see my mom, things like that. Thinking about my family, I think was hard, but at the same time it was like, I have to do this now. It's just something in me that wants to, make this change and have this challenge and go towards something new.
So I'm really curious how you came about wanting to launch StyleFox. And for our listeners, I think it's important for them to understand that StyleFox doesn't necessarily mean that it's about fashion. It's really about lifestyle, and there's so many things that make up somebody's lifestyle. So what was the idea that precipitated you're launching StyleFox?
Sure. So when I moved here, I was working in magazines, and I was working at a website where I was covering a lot of content that was fine, right? It gets clicks, it's great, but I didn't feel like it was really helpful to women. For myself, I like to read stuff that inspires me, that's helpful, and a lot of women's websites will be really focused on gossip or things that are a little bit more vapid. I hate to say that, but it's true. And so I was like, I want to create a site that is really going to help women, move forward in their life and live their best life, whatever you want to define that as. I think that we have to sort of fit in different boxes for what is acceptable, and I think women can really define what makes them happy, and we'll create content about, on the fashion side, creating a capsule wardrobe, or traveling light. I traveled the world for about 9 months, and I had to pack very light, so I learned how to sort of pack my things in a way where I could fit it in a backpack in a small suitcase. So things like that, I kind of would take knowledge from things that I've experienced and kind of try to hand that over to people and kind of help them make their life a little bit better.
I'm obsessed with watching those what's in my bag or packing hacks for sure.
Yeah, right? Isn't it super helpful?
It really is.
Yeah,
you learn all kinds of great tips. And
yeah.
Even the myWorth listeners, they're coming usually to our site to kind of learn about money, and certainly there's topics about career and things. And I'm really curious, you had something on your site that really made me think a little bit. You talked about perfectionism and how we shouldn't necessarily strive to always think that we have to be perfect. And when it comes to money, so many people out there, are really super confident, maybe have everything going really well in all areas of their life, but when it comes to finances or money, that may be an area that they're not maybe as confident in. So what's your take on how they can avoid that strive? You don't have to be perfect to get started.
Sure, we all want to do our best, and I think that self-improvement is amazing, and we should try to look and have some insight into ourselves and improve on things we're not as good at, right? Because we're all going to have different strengths and weaknesses, and I think it's really important to be honest with yourself and put your ego aside and say, well, I could do that better. However, when we get caught up in this idea of, I need to look perfect or do this perfect, I think that's really damaging. And for me, while I'm always trying to improve the things I'm not as good at, I'm also very okay with myself. I accept the things about myself that are not, that I don't think are perfect, and I'm okay with that, at the same time trying to improve it. So I think that we have to think more about growth rather than perfectionism. Mm-hmm. And I think if you have a growth mindset, that's when it really, comes into play, that these things that you think are not good or perfect are actually going to drive you to better places. And it's the hard stuff that makes us better. It's not going, okay, I'm perfect, everything's perfect, now I don't have any challenges in life. It's like, okay, these really crazy things happen, this is really hard, but I'm going to push through it and I'm going to get better from it. And I think that's really important. If you're trying to be perfect all the time, you're never going to run into those roadblocks because you're just not going to challenge yourself enough.
Yeah, I find I learn the most from going through challenging times or roadblocks. A lesson's repeated until it's learned. So I like to look for where the lesson is to be learned.
Absolutely.
Pretty early on. You mentioned to me when we were just kind of getting to know each other before we started filming that you had just launched an eco-friendly skincare line at StyleFox. And so I'd love for you to share a little bit about what made you take that step to start to offer something, and why eco-friendly?
As far as like causes are concerned, it's the most important thing to me. We have to protect the environment, and if I can reach women on a site where they're maybe just coming for, hey, how to, hack my wardrobe, if they can see like I can pop in this eco-friendly stuff and the stuff about the environment, I think it's really important to use your platform for things that matter. So we're very eco-friendly. That's something that I cover often, and I love working with we did a thing over the holidays with the World Wildlife Fund, so that stuff is really important to me. It's how I can give back with the work that I've done. So obviously starting the skincare line, we wanted to make it eco-friendly. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So everything from the ingredients to the packaging are sustainable and biodegradable. Nothing non-toxic. We actually are the only beauty brand that specializes in powdered face masks. So we have 8 different masks, and they all do something different. We have a matcha one that bubbles. We have a coffee one that you use in the morning to depuff your face. We have a brighten one that has enzymes to like brighten your skin up. And we also have these cold pressed oils that you can add to the mask, so you can mix and match and customize. And everything's eco-friendly and sustainable. We don't use any palm oil. We don't use any like filler oils that are just kind of cheaper or whatever. So I'm really focused on creating eco-friendly premium products. We actually just recently launched at Saks, so we're in
that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. So we got some really great coverage in Forbes and Beauty Independent just last week, which was really exciting. I think you go through so much as an entrepreneur. Like, I think I kind of told you my story. I moved here basically with one suitcase. I didn't know anybody. I saved up a bunch of money at my last job, and when I felt like I saved up enough, I quit my job. And it's been a really long journey. There's been so many ups and downs and struggles, and going to zero multiple times, let me tell you.
Right, take the risk. And so many of our readers have been asking us about how they can invest in companies. And when it comes to investing or putting their money somewhere, they want to put it towards a cause they really believe in, or whether it be to invest in companies that have eco-friendly kinds of systems and processes in place, or tend to be more green oriented, or even some that have rules and kind of the way that they run their company in such a way that mimics their morals and values of the investor. And so I think it's really kind of a new thing that we're seeing. And so it's great to see that you've kind of taken a stand on building something you believe in and that you really feel powerful about. So I'm going to ask you a question about money and kind of your background around money as you were growing up. What did your parents teach you about money? Can you remember, or are you willing to share kind of what you thought about money growing up?
Not much. My parents are, they're great. They worked really hard. My dad's an electric engineer, and my mom worked at a college. So they were, we had a solid middle class upbringing. My parents were not too heavily into investing or anything like that. And
Right.
I think, unfortunately, as a girl, you don't learn money as much as you do if you're a boy. Still,
Yeah.
maybe like kids that are born today, but even then it was still like, I did grow up in a more traditional household. And I think that, we don't get as much information about starting businesses and being leaders and, investing. Girls just don't get that information when they're growing up as much. They're more like, hey, when are you having a wedding?
Right.
When do you want to have a kid? Like all these things. And I was like, I would hear that and think, well, that's ridiculous. I want to start a business.
You mentioned a little earlier that you saved money before you kind of launched StyleFox, that you had another job, and so you were kind of really focused on, you had a vision, you had a goal you were driving towards. Tell us a little bit about what that was like, especially was that living in New York City?
Oh,
was
yeah.
that, okay, so because it's not exactly cheap to live in New York
No.
City. So how did you navigate that and the fear of missing out on different things? I'd love to hear how you maneuvered through that.
I am not an extravagant person. I like things. I like travel and going outdoors. I think anything that brings that toward me is great, but I'm not an extravagant person, so I'm not like, hey, I want all the Prada bags. I don't care about that stuff. So it was pretty easy for me to save stuff. I didn't have to be like feeling like I was shopping all the time.
Right.
So really I was just socking away money every month, working on StyleFox site, like working on the whole concept and that whole idea. And I did that for about 6 months. And I was actually going to school at the time too, so I would work from 10 to 7. I would do homework probably from 7 to 11, and then I would work on StyleFox probably from 11 to 2 o'clock in the morning, and I did that for like 6 months.
When were you going to school?
Oh, that was during the time, yeah, I was doing like an online course.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, it was a lot. It was kind of crazy, but I don't know. It was like in this mode where I was just trying to get things done.
Right.
So I finally, after 6 months, I felt like I saved enough and I had the concept ready to go, and I could feel like I hire a web developer and do all that stuff. And so I put in my 2 weeks notice and I went all in.
That's awesome.
So I initially hired a developer to build the site for me, and he was terrible. So I ended up getting my money back and learning how to do it myself, which is another thing that's important to touch on. I think like learning all the new skills, as
Right.
many as you can when you're doing a business, is really important.
So Desiree, when I meet a business owner, a lot of times I hear when they're thinking about investing money, they'll tell me, I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to invest in my company. Why would I be focused on diversifying when, I could just double down on what I know to be true? And it sounds like that's kind of the approach that you took for yourself. So maybe you could share kind of your mindset around that.
Like I said, I worked my last job. I saved up a bunch of money and I invested it all in my business. And I continue to do that today because building an asset in a brand, and there's nothing more valuable than that. I'm sure people might get some, okay returns on their stock investments or something. Could be really risky. I don't really know. I feel like investing it back in my business and building things out more and diversifying the income stream within my own business is the best thing I could possibly do with my money. And I think if you're really financially savvy, if you're an actual person who's in finance, sure, like that's your job. But of course, diversify. But if you're a business owner, I think the best thing you can do with your money is invest it right back in your own business.
Great.
Yeah.
A lot of people out there may be thinking, I have a great idea, I'm ready to launch a business. And there is a distinct difference between having a great idea about something and how do you know when it's business worthy, when it's going to be a business. Was there something that you saw about StyleFox that you said, okay, I know this is got the potential to really be a business. It's not just a fun, entertaining blog site.
It's a good idea to build an MVP, right? A minimum viable product first, and kind of get it out there and see if there's even a need for it. I think a lot of entrepreneurs will create a product that nobody cares about or wants. So for me, even though I had already quit my job by this point, I did launch the site with, it's been important to me to not do a ton of press and a lot of paid stuff because I want to see that people actually like my work. I think if you're putting too much money in, you don't really know people like it. You're paying people to look at something, but when you do it organically, you really can zone in and be like, okay, I created something people actually like, and they're looking at it because they want to, not because they were paid to. So I created 10 posts for the site, and I just launched it. I said, well, I'm just gonna start it. I'm gonna see if people start reading it. And I think in the first month, we got like 6,000 visitors, which is pretty incredible considering we did no press for it, zero. I just put it online.
Right.
And I think that's important. I think that's really important to put your work out there and see if people are responding to it. And if they're not, why aren't they responding? Get feedback from people. Do you like this article? Am I providing value? Those are really important aspects, because if you're too focused on your idea and like your own ego about it, you're not gonna get things done because you're not listening to what people actually want. I think when you're starting a business, you need to think about what people want and not just what you want. You know, I don't recommend people quit their job if they have no money to start their business.
Right.
That's how you fail immediately. And I've seen people do it. I'm like, oh no, please don't do that. Just stay at your job for like as long as you need to, save up like, you know, a nice chunk of change, and then launch your business. Do not do it with no money, because you're just setting yourself up for failure. Don't do anything stupid.
Right.
I don't want to. I've heard people say, yeah, just quit and do. No, it's a bad idea. I don't know who's giving you that advice. Don't do that.
Well, then you make decisions based on the immediate need of
It's
what
desperate.
you need to pay for versus
Yeah.
maybe what's right for your business long term. And so,
Exactly.
such smart advice to do that. And I
Yeah.
just want to thank you for sharing your story and
Absolutely.
your advice with our users and listeners. And you know, I can tell you that one of the things that I love about working at myWorth is hearing from women who are saying, we need to know more about this, or we need to learn that, or here's what we're challenged with. And it sounds like you're doing the same thing at StyleFox. So all the best of luck, and your skin looks amazing.
Oh,
and so
thank you.
check out StyleFox's new skincare line at Saks. And
Yep.
is it available online as well?
It is. StyleFox.com is our skincare, and StyleFox.co is all the content.
Awesome, great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.